As a pilot, you will need to be aware of the basic requirements for the scheme of servicing and maintenance of the aircraft you fly, and more directly, be familiar with the documentation which an aircraft commander has to check and sign in order to accept an aircraft as fit to fly. When an aircraft enters service, one of the vital documents which pertain to it is the Certificate of Airworthiness, or C of A. All commercial aircraft and most other categories of aircraft, except such types as home-built and ex-military aircraft operating under a permit to fly, may not be operated without a C of A. Since September 2008, under EU law and the regulations of the European Aviation Safety Agency, or EASA, the C of A has become a non-expiring certificate, which is supported by an annually renewable document called the Airworthiness Review Certificate, or ARC. The ARC becomes invalid and the aircraft must not fly if the ARC or C of A are revoked, if the aircraft is no longer on the register of an EASA member state, or the aircraft type certificate is revoked. In addition, the aircraft must not fly if it, or any component of it, ceases to be airworthy, if it is involved in an accident or incident affecting its airworthiness without the appropriate repair or maintenance action being taken, if it no longer conforms to its type design, if it has been operated beyond its C of A or flight manual limits, and the appropriate checks, repair or maintenance has not been taken, or if the aircraft is subject to a non-approved modification or repair. Each aircraft type will have its own specific maintenance schedule laid down by the manufacturer and approved by the relevant authority, but in general the maintenance will follow similar basic sequences and periodicity. For an operator to maintain its own aircraft, or for a maintenance organisation to carry out servicing on behalf of operators, they must be approved under JAR, now EASA, Part 145 regulations, which lay down comprehensive rules regarding personnel training and certification, component specifications, technical standards, documentation, and so on. Part 145 also contains a comprehensive list of the hundreds of approved maintenance organisations. To allow operators some flexibility of aircraft use, there are allowed variations or extensions. For example, for light aircraft, a servicing can be extended by 10% of flying hours, 15 days for the 6-month check, and 1 month for the annual check, although these tolerances should not be used in maintenance planning. As with light aircraft, the maintenance schedules for large aircraft will be based on both flying hours and calendar intervals, with each deeper phase of servicing incorporating the elements of the shorter-term checks. The detailed content of each check will be initially determined by the manufacturer and subsequently approved by the appropriate authority. After maintenance or rectification and before flight, a pilot in command is required to check in the aircraft's technical log that the necessary work has been carried out and that the aircraft is fit to fly. The document which provides this information is the Certificate of Release to Service, or Maintenance Release, which contains the following information: basic details of the maintenance carried out, the date it was completed, the identity of the approved maintenance organisation, and the identity of the person signing the release. If an aircraft suffers any unserviceability, usually known as a snag, either on the ground or in flight, which would render it unfit to carry out further flights, the commander must record the fault in the appropriate section of the technical log after flight as a snag, which means that the fault has to be rectified before further flights and would need a maintenance release to confirm serviceability. Some minor faults may be acceptable to be deferred until the next scheduled servicing, and will need to be entered on a different form in the tech log. Aircrew can find guidance on the importance of particular pieces of equipment in the aircraft's Minimum Equipment List, or MEL, which will determine what items are essential for dispatch. The pilot in command plays his part in the maintenance process by checking and signing the technical log before flight and recording accurately after flight both the routine flight details, departure and arrival times, fuel, etc., and, if necessary, concise details of any unserviceability to help the engineers in diagnosing and rectifying the fault. This concludes the lesson on the maintenance requirements according to EU OPS.